Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The NFL Show is brought to you by BetNow.eu. Use the promo code TRUTH100 to get a cashback bonus on your first deposit. I am your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host who's been missing in action. And, you know, from the messages I've got from people, they didn't think you were ever coming back after Kirk Cousins shut down the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Help me welcome from the FF Face-Off, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing good, and Kirk Cousins finally got his signature win.
No, he didn't. He'll do that in the playoffs. But I want to welcome in...
Video game playoffs?
Well, you know what? The Minnesota Vikings will at least be in the playoffs. The Dallas Cowboys won't with their pathetic coaching.
Yeah, well, I can't argue with that. Jason Garrett's he doesn't prepare that team right.
Well, he doesn't call
every
plays
game.
right.
Yeah. Every game, you blink an eye and they're down 14-0 in the first quarter.
Well, that's a great thing, though, isn't it, Sam Teets?
Yeah, I'm absolutely on board with that. I see no problem. Should keep him forever.
Yeah, I don't think he should ever go anywhere. I think that he should be named lifetime coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I think it would be great for all involved, except for the Cowboys. All right. Do you want to talk about anything that happened this past weekend, Anthony, since you've been out? I would love to talk about the Cowboys-Vikings if you'd like to.
No, we can. We can definitely talk about that.
All right. And to me, that was all coaching. I mean, what we saw was Dalvin Cook go off. If you're playing the Vikings or the Cowboys, if you stop Dalvin Cook or you stop Ezekiel Elliott, your chances to win are much better. And my problem with the Dallas Cowboys is why wouldn't you go all out to stop Dalvin Cook, especially when Adam Thielen's not in the game?
I think they tried to contain Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook didn't really, he didn't have a monster game, but he was effective enough. I think where Dallas was really getting gashed was on the screen. Anytime the Vikings ran a screenplay, it was going for 10, 15, 20 yards. And, Mike Zimmer, to his credit, yes, he did shut down Ezekiel Elliott, but, Dak Prescott probably played. Had to be the best game I ever seen Dak Prescott play.
Because he was allowed to play that game, because that doesn't beat the Vikings.
Here's where he was beating the Vikings. And
Actually,
the Cowboys.
He wasn't. Because he lost, and he was behind the whole game except for a short period before Kirk Cousins took his team right down the field and scored. And to say that Dalvin Cook didn't have a gigantic game, I mean, so how many yards does it take? He had 183 total yards.
Right. But he wasn't, breaking the long runs. He was just gashing them on almost every touch. It wasn't all on like an 80-yard run, a couple 80-yard runs.
I know.
I'm not taking anything away from Dalvin Cook at all.
Yeah, where Ezekiel Elliott was held to nothing. 63 yards, he 22 touches. I mean, how can you be in a close game, Sam, and only let Ezekiel Elliott touch the ball 22 times?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out for Dallas, because at this point, if you're the Cowboys, your strong suit is running the football. And the Minnesota Vikings had two running backs who had more rushing yards than anyone on the Cowboys did. So if you're Dallas, you can throw the ball as much as you want, but Minnesota's planning on shutting down your run game. And if you play into that, you're just giving them another advantage.
So
with the way that Dak was playing, he had Dallas within, going to for the game-winning score, and they ran the ball 3 out of 4 plays.
Yeah.
After Zeke couldn't do anything all game, why not let Dak throw it 4 times? Because he was converting 3rd and 15 to Amari Cooper and Randall Cobb at will.
Yeah, but see, I think what this is when you play a team like the Cowboys, when it comes to the nitty-gritty of the game, they're going to do what they're most comfortable with. And even if they've thrown the ball the whole game, that's going to be give the ball to Ezekiel Elliott. And I think that Mike Zimmer knows that. And sure, the Cowboys win the game if they go out of what their comfort zone. But most coaches don't do that. And I think Zimmer kind of expected it to play out this way, Anthony.
Well, and that's the issue with the coaching and Jason Garrett.
Well, and the other thing is, the one pass play they threw was to Ezekiel Elliott against one of the best cover outside linebackers in the game.
I don't know. I don't agree with any of the play calling at the end of the game.
All right, so it's settled. The Cowboys are not making the playoffs this year, correct, Sam?
Exactly.
Okay. Anthony?
I mean, normally I wouldn't mind counting them out, but with the way Philly's been, I mean, do you trust Philly? I think
No.
it's whatever team wants it less.
I don't trust Philly, but I trust Philly's coach. I don't trust the Cowboys. And they've still got to play a game in Philadelphia also.
Right, but you know Dallas has been dominant over Philly since they won the Super Bowl.
Sure they have. But it doesn't matter because this is a totally different situation. Now, the Eagles' record, see, I don't trust this, and I think the Cowboys still got a chance because the Eagles' schedule is maybe worse than Dallas's right now. What they do is they're going to host the Patriots, who've got 2 weeks to prepare. They're going to host the Seahawks. They're going to go to Miami, which is a lot tougher than when Dallas played Miami. Then they get the Giants and the Redskins, which they should handle. Cowboys at home, Giants at the end. So I think this. If the Eagles were to win either one of the next 2 games against the Patriots or the Seahawks, I think they'll win the division. If they lose them both, I think the Cowboys will win the division. That fair enough?
Yeah, it is fair. Yeah.
Well, that's anything about me. I'm fair. Anything else you want to discuss about this past weekend, Anthony?
Pat Mahomes can't do it all by himself, and that's going to continue to be the narrative for the Kansas City Chiefs. They cannot stop the run, and they tried to run the ball, and they were okay running the ball, giving it to Damian Williams and committing to Damian Williams with 19 carries. But, I mean, Derrick Henry had a monster game, and as a result, Ryan Tannehill also threw for over 300 yards for the third time in 4 games. I've said this before, and you keep buying in. I think the Raiders have a legitimate shot at this division.
Well, I think this.
I know you're buying into the Raiders as a playoff team, but I think they have a shot at that division.
This is the thing. Andy Reid makes it so they can lose any game because he's a terrible football coach. And you keep begging on me with this, but the reason this team lost wasn't because they couldn't run the ball. It's because they didn't attempt to in the fourth quarter. They were snapping the ball with a 2-score lead and like 14 minutes left in the game. They're snapping the ball with 20 seconds left, 15 seconds left on the play clock. I mean, at some point, I know that you like to throw the ball around and score a lot of points, but at some point, you have to worry about winning the game.
I think Andy Reid, especially with this Chiefs team, more than I've ever seen it, I think he knows he has to outscore the opponents by a lot.
That's crap, though.
And that's what he's trying to do.
Because if you're up by 9 or 10 points with 12 minutes left in the game, the easiest way to win the game is not to score again. The easiest way to win the game is to run 24 seconds off the play clock and snap the ball. Because they, at a 9 or 10 point lead, right there, they are giving back for every 3 plays with the extra 10 to 15 seconds. You're giving back 45 seconds. And when that happens on 2 straight drives, you just gave an extra minute and a half to Tennessee where they don't even have the final drive if they will just milk the clock down. So it's great to say that they know they got to outscore everybody. But when you've got them outscored and you continue to do that and play that way, we saw it with the Houston Oilers, 1992 in the playoffs. We saw it with the Falcons in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
If you do not milk the clock and run the ball with a 9 or 10 point lead, I mean, when you're up 2 scores with 6 minutes left, 7 minutes left, and you're snapping the ball less than 10 seconds into the play clock, what's the point?
It's almost as though the Chiefs are worse when they have the lead because when they're playing down, they just let Patrick Mahomes go and just let that offense throw the ball like they want. But when they have the lead and they're doing that, they're more vulnerable and they're going to end up losing.
Yeah, so I think in the end, the biggest problem here is Andy Reid. It's not anything else with this Kansas City Chiefs team because we've seen they can run the ball a little bit, I mean, you don't have to be able to. You don't have to have a 150-yard rusher to make this offense work, Anthony. If you got a guy
No,
running
but
for 80 yards, you're in good shape.
the numbers with Kareem Hunt, last year through 11 games compared to their committee this year, there's a big difference in first down conversions, touchdowns, efficiency. So I think losing Hunt, that really set this team back, and we saw that last year in the postseason, and we're seeing that this year.
I think it helped the team.
Help them what? Regress?
No, I don't know how you regress when you get rid of a scumbag off your team. They weren't going to beat New England either way last year because
I think Hunt could have played a big role in that game. He is that type of player.
Yeah, but you know what? He's the type of person that's not going to play big in that situation. Am I wrong here, Sam? I mean, I just, how many times have we seen guys like this? How many big games do you see Chad Johnson play? Never in the playoffs, never against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think when it comes down to it, when you're rolling with a bunch of guys that have been to jail or should be in jail, which the Kansas City Chiefs always do, I mean, at some point, you have to call into question the character of the player on the field and what happens in a big situation in a big game. Am I completely off base, Sam?
You're probably not off base. I think if you have a player who's just you wipe away the personality and you have the talent of Kareem Hunt, you're good. But when you throw in the personality, I don't know necessarily what was going on in the locker room during that time or how he played in the locker room per se. But it is hard.
He was never a problem in the locker room.
You don't know that.
And you can't outlaw.
You don't know that.
Unless the NFL outlaws everybody with a past or a history, then I push that aside.
Really? Well,
yeah.
How many guys have done stuff like that?
Because it's up to the NFL to outlaw them.
No, it's not. It's up to the head coach. It's up to the owner.
You know, is O.J. Simpson not one of the best running backs of all time?
Well, you know what? This is the thing. O.J. Simpson.
Is Ray Lewis?
Wait a second. Hold on. Let's go back to this.
Because he might
O.J. Simpson. Wait a second. Tell me what O.J. Simpson did before 1994.
What do you mean?
I mean, what kind of transgressions? O.J. Simpson was an American icon in the 1970s because he had to smile and he was a great guy. I mean, the O.J. Simpson thing to me goes back to CTE. I mean, it's very rarely you'll see a guy go bad when he's 45 years old, unless there's another issue. And who else did you bring up?
Ray Lewis.
What did Ray Lewis do?
Didn't he wasn't he accused of murdering 2 people?
No, he was accused of seeing it and not saying anything.
Okay, but regardless, isn't that a character issue according to you?
It's not a character issue when you're found not guilty. Kareem Hunt was not found not guilty. Tyreek Hill was not found not guilty, at least in his transgressions in college. You know, it's not like O.J. Simpson was accused of beating up a woman or a kid when he was 18 years old. And the other thing you could bring up is this. O.J. Simpson made it to one playoff game in 1974 against the Buffalo Bills, or against the Pittsburgh Steelers, lost 32-14. The only time he ever made it to the playoffs in a decade career. So if you want to go that way, it's not like he came up big on the big stage because he only got to the big stage once.
Right.
And he got shut down by the steel curtain. So the O.J. Simpson one, I think, is a bad analogy. I think Ray Lewis is because if you look at the history of that, maybe he knew something, maybe he didn't. I don't know.
I'm just saying, not everybody has perfect character in the NFL.
You don't have to have perfect character. There's a difference between, having perfect character and doing something small and stupid. There's a big difference between something small and stupid and beating up your girlfriend while she's pregnant.
Well, that was Tyreek Hill, not Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just using that as an example. My example is this. The Kansas City Chiefs still have Tyreek Hill. So there may be some teams with one guy here or there that was a bad apple that still win, but there's very few of them where that bad apple is the main guy and they win. So the Kansas City Chiefs are doomed to fail anyways because Tyreek Hill is their main guy. And he has serious character issues. And that team is worse now. And Kareem Hunt's gone. And it doesn't matter because Kareem Hunt's a Cleveland Brown, which is where all guys that are bad people should be forced to go play football. But, all right, let's check out the NFL quarterback rankings from Sam Teets, which will be out on thegruelingtruth.com tomorrow. Number one, I don't think there's any question that this is Russell Wilson. He's the MVP of this league. He's a Hall of Famer. Anthony, agree?
Absolutely. On both counts.
I know Sam agrees. Because he's the one that ranked him number one. Now, my question is this. I love Deshaun Watson. And to me, he'd be my second best quarterback after Russell Wilson. But should he be number two in these power rankings, Anthony?
Well, who's number two right now? Is it Watson?
Deshaun Watson. That's what he's got. He's got Deshaun Watson 2, Patrick Mahomes 3, Tom Brady 4, and Aaron Rodgers number 5.
Yeah, I think it's fair for Deshaun Watson to be at the number 2 spot because with the way Russell Wilson is playing, he has to be number 1 right now. And Watson, you can make the case he's been doing more. That's not the best defense in Houston. They don't have the best running game. He doesn't have a ton of weapons at wide receiver, at least reliable ones, and Deshaun Watson just keeps finding ways to win.
Yeah, and Sam, when I look at this, I think Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson are very similar because I don't think they're rolling with the greatest cast of characters around them. But the thing that makes both of these guys really good, I think, is the fact that if they're on the team, it seems like they get everybody else to raise the level of their game.
Yeah, it just seemed like we were talking about character a minute ago, but these two seem like great character guys and great leaders, people you want to be heading your offenses. And they're like, from a young age, like Wilson he had a help with the Legion of Boom when he was younger, but even then, he was playing at a high level when he first got in the league. Deshaun Watson's been the same way. And they're both standout guys now, and they're both some of the best quarterbacks in the league.
All right, my question is this. You got Patrick Mahomes at number 3 ahead of Tom Brady. I would tell you everything we just said about number 1 and 2 could be said about Tom Brady this year also, Sam.
Yeah, at the same time, though, it's not – I understand Tom Brady has a legacy, and it's very hard to push it away, but his season this year has not been terrific as an individual player. Yes, he doesn't make his team better. Yes, he fits perfectly with what the Patriots are doing right now.
Well, how about this, though? I'm also saying that he's not rolling with near the kind of talent that Patrick Mahomes is.
That's true. Yeah, I can agree with that. But I'd also say that Brady has a much more significant defense than Patrick Mahomes does. Mahomes has to, like I said, Mahomes has to score a lot, and he's working with Andy Reid as a coach, while Brady's working with Belichick, and he's got one of the best defenses in football.
All right.
So it's kind of a give and take there.
What's your opinion, Anthony?
I think you can make a case to bump Brady into the 3 spot, but Patrick Mahomes, with the numbers he puts up, I won't put all of these losses on him because of the lack of a defense. The offensive line's banged up and they can't run the football. So it is all on Patrick Mahomes, and he at least keeps them within a score of winning these football games. And on the Brady end, he's doing, this is a 7-1 team. It's a defensive team this year. He has probably the worst running game that he's had, to me, in 5 years, where Sony Michel is right around or under 3 yards a carry. He looks like he's being phased out of the offense when James White's getting the goal line carries. Rex Burkhead, he's going to show up when he gets healthy. They're trying to find wide receivers outside of Julian Edelman, and I think Sanu's going to be good, but this isn't the best cast of characters for Tom Brady, and they're still somehow 7-1.
All right, we got number 5, Aaron Rodgers, number 6, Drew Brees, number 7, Kirk Cousins. And just off of right now, at this point this year, how is Kirk Cousins not at number 5 ahead of Rodgers and Brees? Anybody?
So Rodgers still has the Packers up at 8-2, I think, and they did get a win the past week, so I didn't bump him down. I could understand switching Brees and Kirk Cousins because Cousins has been playing pretty much lights out, and Breeze for some reason didn't show up with the Saints against the Falcons. I didn't drop Rodgers because Rodgers got the win for the team. He didn't put up fancy numbers, but he set them up for situations where Aaron Jones was able to score touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm just asking a question because I wouldn't move him in front of them either for the same reason. I'm just asking because he did get a signature win, so I'm sure Anthony will want to move him up to the top 5, right, Anthony?
Well, I think I would put Cousins ahead of Breeze right now.
I would too, just because
Not so much ahead of
played 4 games.
And Breeze completely laid an egg this week against the Falcons, and that can happen in these division games. But Kirk Cousins, I believe he was the offensive player of the month in October. He's been playing some of the best football since he's been with the Vikings. He, got the signature win on the road, Dallas, big game. So I would put Kirk Cousins in the top 5 ahead of Breeze.
All right. I wouldn't put him in the top 5. I'd put him at 6 behind Rodgers. And I can tell you this. I would put Derek Carr, who you got at number 8. I'd put him ahead of Breeze also. I think Derek Carr has played really well this year, Sam.
Yeah, Carr, the guys we talked about a lot this year, and he's been underrated, I'd say, for the last couple of years. He's been putting up a lot of stuff there in Oakland. But he's come out. He's been a very efficient player for them this year, and he's been reliable on a team that doesn't have a lot of reliable players, honestly. So he's come out. He's been good. He's completing 70.8% of his passes this year. He's doing everything they need him to do, and they're winning games. They're at 5-4. They have a chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and the thing that's amazing to me is all the Raider fans did still. As soon as they lose their next game, they're going to be screaming that they need a quarterback.
Exactly. They're going to be like, oh, we need a new quarterback. And I just don't get that.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Bengals fan, and everybody that was screaming for Andy Dalton to get benched, look what you got once it happened. Anthony, Derek Carr.
I think Derek Carr is having a great year. I think the stigma with Derek Carr is that in his career, I believe he only does have that one winning season, and that's been following him around. But this year, I'm seeing a different Derek Carr. He's more mature. He's a leader, and he's doing a lot with a hell of a lot less. You talk about what Brady and Russell Wilson are doing with the weapons or lack thereof around them. Derek Carr is doing the same. Tyrell Williams, he's a productive receiver to an extent to where he'll give you a touchdown here and there, but he doesn't catch a ton of passes for a ton of yards. And Darren Waller has kind of fallen off after his big start. So it's really just Derek Carr just distributing the football to whoever's open, and Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, and Josh Jacobs, anytime you have a running game, it helps. Number 9, Matt Ryan. Number 10, Carson Wentz. Number 11, Dak Prescott. So we've got to let Anthony go first here.
So who's the 9, 10, 11?
Matt
I know
Ryan
Dak's
at
11.
9, Carson Wentz at 10, and then that loser for the Cowboys at number 11.
I would still bump Dak up ahead of both of those players because of the game that Dak Prescott played on Sunday night. Yes, he lost, but there was no running game. They completely shut down Ezekiel Elliott. Dak Prescott was in 3rd and long, 3rd and 10 and over. It seemed like all game long, and he was converting them. Some of the passes to Amari Cooper were just ridiculous, putting the ball where only Cooper can get it.
But he didn't win the game, and he didn't make the play at the end of the game. Now, and
so
I'm only bringing this up.
So you're going to put Matt Ryan, who has
yes.
2 wins on the year?
What I'm going to bring up is this.
You want to put up Matt Ryan?
Hold on. Let's switch places here. What if the Vikings, what if Kirk Cousins played a game like that? But at the end of the game, on 4th and 5, he threw an incompletion and lost the game. You would sit here and say, he still has no signature wins. He played great, but he didn't make the play at the end of the game that could have won the game.
Yeah, but I don't know if I would bump him out of the. I don't think I would put Matt Ryan ahead of Kirk Cousins, even if that happened.
But that's not the point.
And I don't think I'm putting Carson Wentz ahead of him either.
The point is, you've said how great Dak Prescott played in this game. I don't think it would be the same if this would have been Kirk Cousins' game played like this.
But Kirk Cousins played a good game, but you were 180 yards from Dalvin Cook.
Oh.
That helped. If Dalvin Cook was shut down like Zeke was shut down, I don't know if Kirk Cousins is having that game.
This is the thing. Zeke got shut down, and Dak Prescott lost him the game.
And Dak Prescott stepped up.
He lost him the game. I mean, he had 4th and 5, and for some reason he makes the choice to throw to Ezekiel Elliott, who's covered by maybe one of the best cover corners, outside linebackers in football, when he's got Amari Cooper running around, who's had like 11 receptions for a couple hundred yards. I would say he made a poor choice, and I would say that if that was any other quarterback in the world, you'd say, yeah, they played great, but when it came down to it, they blew it.
If it wasn't for Dak, the Minnesota Vikings would have blew out Dallas.
Wait a second. If it wasn't for Dak, the Minnesota Vikings would have blown out Dallas.
Yes.
So, with Dak, they lost. Without Dak, they'd have lost.
They would have lost.
They lost. He didn't make the play when it mattered. And we saw this when I forget what game it was a few weeks. Oh, the Kansas City game. You know, Kirk Cousins threw 3 touchdowns, no picks, 200 yards. But at the end of the game, he failed on the final drive and he made a bad throw. And you sat here and you said, yeah, he played great. But as always, when it mattered, he blew it.
Yeah, you were all over us about that one.
Well, Cousins also completed about right around 50% of his passes. What did Dak do?
He was like 60%.
Right at 61.
Yeah, 61 is well below what you would expect
For
from an NFL quarterback.
397 yards, 3 touchdowns in the pick.
And 1 interception. Now, what you had was, what is the difference between that? Now, I'll tell you this. If I tell you this week, Dak Prescott's going to play a game with those exact same numbers, or he could play a game where he's 19 for 38 for 344, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions, which game would you rather have?
The one where he wins.
Yeah, which would be the game with no interceptions normally. I mean, we're not saying that. We're saying is this. What stats do you think are more conducive to winning? 3 touchdowns and 1 interception, or 3 touchdowns and no interceptions?
But Cousins didn't win that game either.
That's not the point. I'm asking you, when it comes down to it, if you had the 2 stat lines to choose from for the Dallas Cowboys this week for Dak Prescott, which line would you rather have? 50% completions with 3 touchdowns and no picks, or 60% with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception? Which one is more likely to win you the game?
Dak also threw for almost 400 yards, where
Good
the
for
game
Dak.
you're talking about with
win?
Cousins, he was at 220.
If he would have thrown for 400, yeah, but I'm still telling you this. I would rather have a quarterback throw for 220, 3 touchdowns and no picks, than 397, 3 touchdowns and 1 pick.
Okay.
Do you disagree?
Either way, the both quarterbacks lost.
Yeah.
In the games that we're comparing right now.
But when we compared them, you said that Kirk Cousins played poorly. But in the same sense, you said Dak Prescott played great. But in the end, the only thing that matters,
did you
as
see
you
the
said,
throws that Dak was making? I don't know. Let me go back.
Yes,
and watch
I
Kirk
did.
Cousins against
I
the
saw
Chiefs.
a 4th and 5 where he
Had
the best outside linebacker cover guy in the NFL. I saw it. The throw that mattered, he sucked.
Yeah, the Chiefs.
He blew it. It was 4th and 5, and he made a bad choice, and it cost him the game. If he makes the right choice there, they win the game.
And the 3 runs to Zeke, that's on Dak too?
Are you telling me that Dak, who's been in the league for 3 or 4 years now, is not allowed to audible?
I don't know.
I would think that he probably is, because I saw him audible during the game. So if he walks up, usually if you think your quarterback's good, if there's so many guys in the box, he can audible out of that play at any time. So I think Dak Prescott was fine with handing the ball off, and he was wrong. And he was wrong when he chose to throw the ball to Ezekiel Elliott.
I don't know.
All right. Next step. I also think this. I think Lamar Jackson should be ahead of Dak Prescott. We got Lamar at number 12, Kyler Murray at 13, Ryan Tannehill at 14. I think all 3 of those guys could make arguments to move up ahead of Ryan and Wentz. I think only Jackson can make the case to move up ahead of Prescott. And I don't think it's a great case. So I'm not just sitting here ripping on him, Anthony. But I'm saying this. I'm saying all 3 of these guys are exceeding expectations. Sam?
Yeah, I'd say for Jackson, part of it, again, is because he played the Bengals. They had a really good game this past week, but they have beaten New England and Seattle in the past couple of weeks, and Jackson's been playing his style of football where he's able to get out and run the ball, and that kind of carries his passing game a little bit. It opens up some opportunities for him. And Seattle, after starting 2-2, Seattle's won 5. Baltimore, after starting 2-2, they've won 5 straight. So they're doing well. Kyler Murray had a really good game, in my opinion. They just weren't able to end up pulling that one out. And just that interception there really kind of cost them late in the game. And Ryan Tannehill's playing really well, I think, in my opinion. Compared to what they had with Marcus Mariota, I think Tannehill's been great for them in Tennessee.
Yeah, and I think Ryan Tannehill, it probably took a football savants to know that he was going to do this good. Don't you think, Anthony?
Listen, Tannehill is probably the hottest quarterback in football right now. 3-1, 300-yard games in the 4 starts. It just looks like a different Tennessee Titans team with Ryan Tannehill. And this is a move that we both said that should have been made in week 1.
Yeah, if they'd have made it week 1, they'd be sitting at 7-3 right now.
Is Tannehill a different quarterback if he had somebody else other than Adam Gase? And I know he had success under Adam Gase. They had a winning record together.
Well, remember this.
But Tannehill
a lot of the problem
like
there
this.
was
Tannehill wasn't playing like this with Gase.
He was hurt a lot, too, if you remember. I mean, there weren't too many seasons where he played a full season. And
he missed all of 2017.
And the only reason I think, and I've been one of the biggest Lamar Jackson detractors there are, but he's sitting at number 12, and like in the last couple weeks, not counting this game, he beat Seattle and New England. I mean, right there, that should put him in the top 10, I think. That is why I would put him. I would put him above Dak. I would put him above Carson. I would put him above Ryan. I would put him above Drew Brees right now. Drew Brees has played 4 games and he was 2-2.
Yeah, I'm just not a big Lamar Jackson
no
guy.
argument there.
Yeah, but it's not about being a big Lamar Jackson fan. I'm not either. But he went to Seattle and beat Seattle. He came home and he beat New England, and both games were 2-touchdown games in the last minute. It's not like it was close. So I think it's one thing to not be a big fan of somebody. It's another thing to
be biased.
Yeah, you're being biased then, because I mean, I'll sit here and I'll admit right now I trash Lamar Jackson every chance I get. You won't hear it now because I still have questions, but if I ask those questions right now, I just sound like an idiot because he just beat Seattle and New England, if that makes any sense.
Lamar Jackson, if you look at his splits, he is putting up much better numbers against the bad teams, including playing the Bengals twice in Miami and whoever else they beat and blown out. And if you look at his numbers, he threw a couple picks against New England and he didn't have his best. But he's still winning those games. Winning those games. And Lamar Jackson, you have to put him up.
Yeah, that's why I think Lamar Jackson should sit.
And look at the weapons he's working with.
No,
his number 1 receiver is a rookie. Who's missed a couple of games, and the tight end. He's making Nick Boyle, who's been in the league as a primary blocking tight end. He's a quality pass-catching number 2 tight end right now behind Andrews.
I actually think that Lamar Jackson should be sitting somewhere between 4th and 6th here. I think there's a case where you could actually maybe even higher. I mean, Wilson, Watson, Jackson doesn't look that bad to me just because Mahomes has lost 4 games. Brady lost to Jackson. Rodgers has been inconsistent. He's played well at times. Drew Brees, I mean, he's only really played, 4 or 5 games, and he's 500. Kirk Cousins is 7-3, but honestly, Lamar Jackson should be ahead of him. He should be ahead of Derek Carr. And Matt Ryan is sitting with 2 wins. Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott, to me, are on teams that, because of injuries, I don't think are as good as what they thought they were going to be. But I thought both of these teams would be more of the 7-3 right now instead of what they are. So I think Lamar Jackson is overachieved.
Are you buying into like Lamar Jackson MVP thing then? Because I've seen a lot of stuff with him and Russell Wilson being like 1 and 2 right now. Are you buying into that?
I don't buy to it over Lamar or over Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson. I think that he would be in my top 4 right now for the MVP. It is hard not to because nobody thought. I mean, I thought the Ravens would win this division, but I didn't think they would be rolling the way they are right now. And it's because of Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. I'm not a big Jackson fan,
And
but
Greg Roman.
we also have to realize this, though. What John Harbaugh has done here, and I think it's safe to say that Lamar Jackson would probably only be successful with about 3 or 4 other coaches, and those are coaches like Bill Belichick, John Harbaugh, guys that understand that you have to fit the offense to the talents of your quarterback. And I think the great thing that Harbaugh's done here is he has done that. I mean, he's put more running backs around him. He's starting to give him weapons to throw the ball to. And Lamar Jackson is probably going to succeed beyond what any of us could have ever imagined just because he's with John Harbaugh. Because he gets Lamar Jackson. He knows what Lamar Jackson can do. And then John Harbaugh's smart enough to go out and get it. Where if you'd have put Lamar Jackson, I've heard Bengal fans, see, we should have got Lamar Jackson. If we'd have got Lamar Jackson, we would have tried to make Lamar Jackson the quarterback we wanted him to be, if that makes sense. Instead of letting him be what he is and fitting the pieces around him. And I think,
my question is, if Greg Roman gets a head coaching job, and I think there's a good chance that he does, is Lamar Jackson going to be successful with another offensive coordinator?
Yeah, because this is about John Harbaugh. Because John Harbaugh, to me, is like a Belichick, where there's not a game plan he doesn't approve. I think what he did was he went out and he found Greg Roman to call this offense with the understanding of how he wanted it called. Because let's look at it like this. When I go hire an offensive coordinator, I want a guy that buys into exactly what I want this to be. So my guess is with John Harbaugh, it's going to be easy to find another offensive coordinator. And that offensive coordinator, I think, is going to play to the strength of this quarterback. Because I think that's the way John Harbaugh has designed this.
That's fair, but, Greg Roman does get a lot of the credit.
Yeah, he does.
Just like he got for Kaepernick and the other successful running quarterbacks he's produced.
Well, and the thing is this. Colin Kaepernick was to the point with John Harbaugh there. Remember, Kaepernick went south because Harbaugh left as the head coach, I think. As soon as he was gone, there was no more Lamar Jackson.
You mean Kaepernick?
Kaepernick with Jim Harbaugh. As soon as Jim Harbaugh left that, because Jim Harbaugh got it also. And they made Colin Kaepernick a hell of a quarterback. I mean, if you watch the game Colin Kaepernick played in that Super Bowl, he threw for almost 400 yards. He played his ass off. He played his ass off getting him to that Super Bowl. So, I mean, in the right situation, most of these guys that are drafted as quarterbacks could be at least serviceable guys. But when you send them to a place where they're trying to pigeonhole and run with the offensive coordinator the head coach wants, instead of running to their strengths, I think right now Harbaugh, to me, is the coach of the year. And I don't even think it's close.
Yeah, there's no argument there. I love what the Ravens are doing, and I'm a big John Harbaugh guy.
Yeah. All right, next up, 15, Kyle Allen finally has started to move up the rankings. Jameis Winston at 16, Jimmy Garoppolo at 17. I'll tell you the scary thing, and we need some young quarterbacks in this league, because once you get past like 13 or 14, it's kind of just a crapshoot, Sam.
Yeah, even with someone like Kyle Allen who's decent, but like Kyle Allen's not a guy who's going to win you a football game. Kyle Allen's a good placeholder quarterback for like Christian McCaffrey go out and take over a game, but he's not going to win you the game himself. And it's hard looking at the bottom of this list because you're right. Once you get past that like 14 range, it's like, well, who even cares at this point? Because they're all kind of just meh.
Yeah, they're either guys that are placeholders that can win you the game if everything around them goes well, or they're a guy like Jameis Winston or Jimmy Garoppolo who may be awesome or they may be atrocious. You never know what you're getting there. And Winston gets another win. He threw a couple interceptions, but he came through in the clutch when it mattered.
Yeah, that's why I moved him up to 16 again, because he did get that win. He did come through. Kyler Murray had a big game, and Winston was still able to get in there and pull out the win when they needed it. So I was impressed with that. But, again, Winston's a guy who's like, he's hit or miss. Like, every now and then he's going to throw multiple interceptions in the game. It's just going to be a very bad day for your team.
Yeah, and my concern, 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't know if this is, Jimmy's fault or just the fact that they drop a lot of passes and they're missing starter. They were missing basically by the middle of the first quarter their two biggest receiving threats in this game, Anthony.
Yeah, well, Emmanuel Sanders, he was out early in the first quarter. George Kittle didn't even play in the game. And what we saw earlier in the year from Jimmy Garoppolo, when he was turning the ball over more, he looked like a completely different quarterback the second they acquired Manny Sanders. I think he changed the dynamic of that offense because it did give Kyle Shanahan a reliable playmaking receiver that they didn't have because George Kittle can't do it all. And now they're just left with all of these young guys again who are not ready. I mean, two of them are second-round picks. They're just not ready to be the guys yet. So they really do need Emmanuel Sanders back, maybe even more than Kittle.
I think they need either one of them back would help. Both of them's what they need to make a Super Bowl run now.
On Kyle Allen, are we selling him short? Because you have to remember, he's still how many games into his NFL career. He is getting better as a passer. In the two losses, if you look at the Green Bay and the San Francisco loss, both of those games were dominated by the other team early, mostly by running. And I think we see Kyle Allen try to overcompensate, and I don't think he's there yet. I think he has a chance to be a quarterback who can win you a game. I just don't think he's there yet.
I don't think we're selling him short, and I don't think Sam did. I think 15 is perfectly fair for him.
No, I'm saying saying that he's not ever going to be a guy who can go and win you a game. I'm not going to. I think
put
the
it like
jury's
this.
Still out.
I'll tell you this right here. When I look at this list, that's not a shot to me. Guys that could go win you a game are Wilson, Watson, Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, Breeze. And that's it to me. I mean, you got guys like Cousins, Carr, Prescott, Ryan. Ryan, I would probably put in that list too. I just don't think his team's good enough to do it. But really, there's less than 10 guys in the NFL that I think could really go out, put his team on their back consistently, and win you a game. And I think with Kyle Allen and these other guys, I think it takes a few years to see if they are that type of player or not. I will give you this. I think there is a chance that he is that guy, but I think there's a little bit bigger chance that he's probably not. And there's nothing wrong with just being a guy that's consistent and can play. I mean, a guy that's consistent and can play is Derek Carr, is Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz right now, because none of those guys have shown that they can put their team on their back and take them somewhere.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Kyler Murray will be one of those guys one day.
I think that Kyler Murray may already be that guy. He just doesn't have the players around him to be good enough to carry him anywhere yet. But, all right, let's go to number 18, Josh Allen. 19, Phillip Rivers. Number 20, Nick Foles. At some point, Phillip Rivers has got to start to drop much quicker on here, doesn't he? I mean, because Nick Foles Nick Foles played better last week than Phillip Rivers did.
Yeah, no, I don't. Phillip Rivers was very surprising, but he was coming off the win against Green Bay, so that's why he was so up so high to begin with. That's why I gave him a little bit of props, a little bit of a cushion there. He did have that win against Green Bay, and the week before that was a win against Chicago. So it's up a little bit from that. But now, like you said, the 3 interceptions against Oakland is very surprising because I think he doubled Oakland's interception total for the year, something like that. Like, Oakland doesn't have a very good secondary, and Rivers got victimized 3 times. So I am shocked, honestly, in the Chargers. They have pieces, and they should have been a much better team this year than they are right now.
All right. Anthony, any take on Phillip Rivers? Josh Allen?
On Rivers, it's the same take I've been saying all season. Decimate, the offensive line was, shot at the beginning of the season. And I think we're seeing this more this year than anything. If you're a pocket passer, if you're a Rivers, look at how bad Jared Goff looks. Look how bad, Wentz was against Dallas when they couldn't stop that pass rush. These are, you need to be a mobile quarterback in today's NFL, I think.
Yeah, and the question is this. Phillip Rivers 5 or 6 years ago would have still been successful. I mean, I think that this shows us that the feet are getting a little bit slower.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the sad thing.
He can't do it all by himself anymore. And has Rivers ever had a good offensive line?
Yeah, 2000. The year they fumbled about 2007 or 8. They had a good offensive line back then.
Yeah. 11 and 5 years.
Long time then.
Yeah, the year that the guy intercepts the pass, and if he just takes a knee, they're in the championship game. Instead, the New England Patriots get to win another Super Bowl or go to another championship game. Number 20, Nick Foles has not played at all this year, has he? Not since the
played a quarter.
Week. Yeah. Well, how's he rank at number 20 if he hadn't played?
He played a quarter.
I put him at 20 because honestly, it's just look at what's behind him. Daniel Jones had a good game, but it was against the Jets, so I don't really count that. It was Jared Goff who got beat up by Pittsburgh, Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, who I don't trust at all at this point, and then it's Fitzpatrick and Trubisky and those guys down there. So for me, I'd honestly rather take Foles just cold to start the year at 20 over those guys right now.
All right, number 21, Daniel Jones. I mean, he's not playing bad quarterback. He just can't hold on to the ball. Jared Goff at number 22, I think is way too high because Jared Goff sucks. Sam Darnold played well this week, but you can't have him much higher than 23 because it's the first week he's played well in a while. Anthony, what's your take on 21 Jones, 22 Goff, 23 Darnold?
The fact that Jared Goff has fallen this far back, I mean, it's surprising, but it's really not, because the word I described watching that Rams game, they were absolutely dreadful on offense. They were dreadful to watch. They couldn't get anything going. Cooper Kupp completely blanked, and he's one of the emerging receivers in the NFL. It was just bad. And this offensive line, it goes to that Rivers take where, if you can't get a running game, at least Rivers has Melvin Gordon going a little bit. They have no running game for Jared Goff. They have no offensive line for Jared Goff. So it's just bad. The Rams are bad. And I think the Rams are going to be bad for a while because they have their salary cap. And I looked this morning, 7 players take up roughly 50% of their cap. Their second highest paid player is Andrew Whitworth, right around $16.5 million. And yeah, that number is going to get wiped off when they move on from Whitworth, but then you got to extend Jalen Ramsey and give him probably make him the highest paid corner in the league. And you moved all your draft picks. So where is this offensive line going to improve?
Yeah,
and unless that happens, they're done.
They're screwed. They're done. All right, let's go talk to 24, 25, 26. I'll let Sam take these because I get bored when we start talking about bad quarterbacks. 24, Baker Mayfield. 25, Ryan Fitzpatrick. 26, Mitchell Trubisky. I will say this. I believe Ryan Fitzpatrick should be in the top 20.
In the top 20?
Yeah.
I mean, he did good. He makes them competitive. He makes Dolphins competitive when he plays.
Yeah, but doesn't that mean that he's got to be pretty good to make the Dolphins competitive?
Well, I was going to say it's a pretty big deal, but at the same time, he's got one good game this year. He's got one really good game against the Jets last week.
Well, how many good games does Jared Goff have? 1 or 2? He played the Bengals, so we know he had one there. Sam Darnold had 2 good games. Baker Mayfield, I don't know, a couple good games. I don't know. I just like Ryan Fitzpatrick more than the other guys. And I think that Ryan Fitzpatrick is a man who doesn't get the credit that he deserves. I would like to have seen Ryan Fitzpatrick on a complete football team to see what he could have done.
Yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick's a guy that I do kind of like. I like him in the NFL because he makes things interesting.
Well, and he's always on teams that are so bad that he doesn't really have a chance.
Yeah, he's on like the Jets or the Buccaneers or the Dolphins or something like that. And he goes, you know what? If you need him for 6 games, he'll make you go 4-2 or something like that. He'll go in there for a short stretch and he'll win you games.
Yeah.
So he's a fun character to have around. I do enjoy having him in the league. But at the same time, he beat up a bad Colts secondary for a little bit. He did throw an interception, no passing touchdowns, and it was against Brian Hoyer, who basically gifted the Dolphins to win with 3 interceptions. So it was a good game, but not a game I would consider to be ranked very high in terms of his production.
All right. Now, I'm going to bring this up one time. And this is the last one we're going to talk about, because I'm not going to talk about Brian Hoyer or Dwayne Haskins, because Dwayne Haskins can't play football as an NFL quarterback. Just like I said with Mitch Trubisky, it's never going to happen. Only Haskins is even worse than Trubisky. Ryan Finley, 29. Jeff Driscoll, number 30. I think that Jeff Driscoll should be 29, and Ryan Finley should be number 30.
I flip-flop between the two of them. Honestly, I actually, when I was doing the numbering, I moved them back and forth 2 or 3 times when I was looking at the list.
Remember, Driscoll kept his team in the game, though.
Yeah, I couldn't make my mind up on where to put him, honestly. I put Finley a little higher because partially because of the potential, I thought, and because he's on such an offense that was devoid of all weapons, to be honest. I mean, you got Joe Mixon, but other than that, your receivers are all
Tyler Boyd.
beat up.
And you refuse to throw to tight ends, which Tyler Eifert used to be all right.
Yeah.
What are you doing over there, Anthony? You juggling?
No, I'm here.
All right. Sounds like you're bouncing a microphone around. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I did flip-flop between the two of them. I feel like, let's be honest, Finland's got no shot here with the Bengals just because of the situation they're in with the roster. He's basically getting thrown out there, and even though, it'd be great if he did succeed, I don't see an opportunity for him to succeed.
It would be terrible if he succeeded.
That's true. He wouldn't get the top pick.
I want Joe Burrow. I hope they go
You'll get him at
16.
this rate.
But the only thing is, that means that Joe Burrow will probably be a bust because he'll come here with no coaching.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Anthony, what do you think? Just Dwayne Haskins, Jeff Driscoll, Ryan Finley. Who's worse?
They're all pretty bad right now.
Yeah. And the bad thing is Brian Hoyer is number 32. And I think that is the least debated of everything that you've got, 1 through 32, Sam.
After he did double Miami's interception totals for the year, so I don't think we can argue with that one.
Well, he does suck too, which makes it hard to argue with. Anthony, anything else you want to discuss?
I just saw a report saying that Adam Gase's job is safe.
Oh, well, that's good. I mean,
including this offseason.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. But isn't it usually when they say that you're going to keep your job that you usually get fired shortly after?
Yeah, but not when you're the Jets.
Yeah, I know. That's Zach Taylor and Adam Gase will both be safe because Zach Taylor is going to go 0-16 and be safe, which is sad because that team has the talent to be 1-15. Don't you think, Sam?
You could have gotten at least one win here at some point, surely. There must have been some time you could have gotten a win.
On the Bengals, you guys will be getting John Ross back in Week 13.
Woo! All right. Now the only thing we would need is enough time to throw the ball to him and a quarterback that could get it to him. So the Bengals are going 0-16. They go to Oakland to battle the Raiders this week. At least Oakland's not playing for anything, huh? Let's see. And I'll tell you, one of the more interesting games to me, and we're going to talk this tomorrow, Anthony, Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Because I think this is a must-win for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh wins this game. They do have a legit shot to be a playoff team then.
They do, and that wouldn't shock me one bit because that Pittsburgh defense is what has been carrying them. And they're getting James Conner. Most likely, he'll be back.
Well, I don't think James Conner matters because I don't think he's very good. I think against the Browns, though, he may look good. But my thing here is Mike Tomlin is a tough, hard-nosed coach. Freddie Kitchens is a PlayStation coach. So I really expect Pittsburgh to brutalize them just like Tennessee did. And I think my real dark horse to make a run at the Super Bowl right now is the Tennessee Titans. Am I crazy, Anthony?
Yeah, I don't say it.
I'm crazy, but you said the Cowboys were going undefeated for the next decade.
Well,
is that starting now?
I don't see it with Tennessee, really.
Is that starting now? They're going to be undefeated for the next decade?
It starts new after every loss.
Well, I'll get you. They're 5-5 right now. They will play the Jaguars, and then they go to Indianapolis.
They're 5-4. They're 5-4.
Or 5-4.
Let's not give them another loss.
They play at Tennessee. I think this game is huge. If they beat the Jaguars at home, they're 6-4. They go to Indy. I think they could win that game. They go to Oakland. They could win that game. They host Houston. They could win that game. The thing is this. It is not that I think they're going to win every one of those games. There's no game on their schedule that I see here where I think they can't win that game. I mean, they play the Saints, but they're going to play them at home, which is probably going to be a defensive battle. They play the Texans twice. That's going to be tough. But I think the key here is if you beat the Jaguars and you beat the Colts and you're sitting at 7-4 going to those last four, you got a shot there.
It's all on Derek.
I think we're
got to keep feeding him the ball.
Well, yeah, and you got so many divisional games that's going to help out. 'Cause you're going to be knocking out your own competition, so that's going to really help you out down the stretch.
Yeah, but I think it is imperative.
Control your own destiny.
I think it's imperative they beat the Colts and they beat the Jaguars. They win those two. I think they got a shot. And I just like the way they play football. I mean, Ryan Tannehill can score him some points now. What they were missing before was a quarterback. Marcus Mariota's he's just a guy. Ryan Tannehill's a guy that I think in this situation can actually lead your team to some victories. Now, I still think Houston wins that division, but I think Tennessee could definitely be a wild card. I think your wild cards could be Tennessee and Pittsburgh.
Tennessee and Pittsburgh.
No, I don't think that because I think Oakland's going to insert. I think your two wild cards come out of Tennessee, Pittsburgh, and Oakland.
I wouldn't count out Jacksonville yet with Foles.
I would. I don't think that they're coached well. I don't like the way they're coached. I think Leonard Fournette is a hit-and-miss guy. And I agreed with you at the start of the year because I thought the Jaguars were a playoff team also. But I don't like the way they play football. I like the way Tennessee and Pittsburgh play. And I hate to say it, but I've liked the way Oakland's played. Because Oakland, Tennessee, and Pittsburgh all play with an infinite amount of energy. I don't see that from Jacksonville. I see a team that sometimes does. Or they sometimes get beat 26-3 by Houston. And 26-3 by Houston, or 23-6, whatever it was, is not going to be changed by Nick Foles. Because that's more than just a quarterback issue when you're getting pounded like that. But what I like about Oakland and Pittsburgh is how hard and how much energy those teams play with, and the same thing with Tennessee. And all three of those coaches are not afraid to take a chance to win the game. Jacksonville, they take chances, but they seem to be err on the side of being stupid chances more often than not. That, I just don't like Doug Moron, or whoever their coach is, Doug Marone. But, all right, Sam, tell us where they can find you on the internet.
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Sam_Teets33. I publish articles regularly, so feel free to go out and check those out.
All right, you can also find him on The Grueling Truth, which I figured you already knew that because he's on The Grueling Truth right now. Anthony, tell everybody where they hear the FF Face Off, which one of the places is on thegruelingtruth.com. We just posted your latest podcast this morning.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru, and you can follow the show at the FF Face Off. You can find us both on all of the top social media and podcast platforms.
All right, and we have a busy day today for you at thegruelingtruth.com at 3 o'clock. We will be doing a Legends of Xavier basketball interview with Andy McWilliams, who used to be the announcer for the Cincinnati Stingers in the old WHA. He actually has a great story about, he's the guy who got Bob Costas his first job. Still stays in contact with Bob all the time. He was the radio voice with the Cincinnati Bengals, Cincinnati Reds, and of course Xavier basketball from 1983 to 1998. And then at 4 o'clock today, myself and Ken Sterling will be on with Indiana Basketball Weekly. 9 o'clock tonight, Robert Drummond with the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show as we look at the conference finals, which are headed this weekend as we're only 2 weeks away from the Grey Cup. And since Anthony and Sam may not know this, but that's the biggest football game in the history of Western civilization. That's to see who the best team in Canada is. And then at 10 o'clock, we'll have the NFL Weekly Pick'em Show with myself, Brian Schmidt, Scott Wilson, and Matt Anderscavage. All right, too many names, so I'm going to wrap it up now before my brain overheats and explodes. But you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Sam Teets, Anthony Cervino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.